No, something's gone terribly wrong. But yeah, as far as I know, we are live. It's that time again. It's time for Geek Speak. And today we are talking about etiquette for LinkedIn. It's a
Yes,
growing
we are.
platform. And so it's definitely one where I have a lot of questions for you because I think you're doing a lot on LinkedIn. And so I'm definitely interested to pick your brain to see how to get the most out of it.
Terrific. Yes. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rena Little from Littleworks Indie Media. And we're a very small boutique um, agency here in Vancouver. And Phelan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Phelan. I work at Seymour Digital Media, where we focus on search engine marketing.
Terrific. All right. So, where to start with LinkedIn? We need to make a couple of distinctions. LinkedIn is a particular kind of networking space, and a lot of people try and treat it as if it's Facebook, and it is not. So, LinkedIn, the great thing about LinkedIn really is its search engine that it has. So, next to YouTube and Google itself, obviously, LinkedIn is one of the best search engines out there, and so you want to really make sure that your profile is keyword optimized. So that means not putting founder in your title or CEO or owner operator. You need to actually put what it is that you're doing in your title, and you can make it known that you're the owner operator or the CEO elsewhere. But your title is one of the most valuable pieces of real estate on LinkedIn. And you're also going to want to make sure that you're filling out everything completely on your profile so that you're found. One of my best examples was when this is a couple of years ago now, though,
Mm-hmm.
when a national company was looking for um, somebody to do blogging and somebody that could do blogging for SEO purposes and somebody who was also part of a BNI chapter. I was one of three people that came up nationally, and that actually surprised me, considering there's so many SEO companies in BNI.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you want to make sure that just shows exactly how optimizing your profile gets you noticed. So LinkedIn is one of those places that if you're trying to meet someone, if you want to find someone, if you want to fill a position, you want to connect with someone, you're going to use the search bar to do that. Whereas Facebook, you've got your groups, you've got your friend circles, and you're posting things outward. It works more like that. You're not usually using um, the search options for finding people. You're usually using the search options for finding groups or pages or something like that. At least that's how I've looked at it. And the search function on Facebook is pretty dismal. So you sometimes really have to know. You have to try multiple ways of putting in search queries to get the answer that you're looking for, even if you know that this group that is called this specifically exists. There could be five other groups that are similarly um, named, but they have different URLs, and so they'll come up differently. Whereas LinkedIn really provides good search results. And not only that, it allows you to search hashtags much better and tell you which hashtags your connections are using. So there's a lot more potential for hashtag searches in and optimizing your content for hashtags on LinkedIn than there is on Facebook. So that's the biggest distinction that I would say. The other big distinction is that some people on Facebook keep their profiles locked down and they will only become friends with people that they know. And their default setting is their posts go to their friends list. Um, that's not what I recommend, but I think I've discussed that in a Facebook episode a different time. I'll see if I can find that episode.
Yeah.
But on LinkedIn, you tend to have broader sense of who you want to network with. So you might accept people's. You typically, and I actually recommend it. Accept connections that you might not know those people. It's just like going to a networking event where you do want to meet people. Excuse me just for 1 second.
Yeah,
So
that
sorry.
that all makes sense. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, because it's definitely one that has a different vibe, you would say, than
Yeah.
where you're trying to do whether it's you're doing thought leadership or networking, or you'd also mention like
Yeah.
building up referrals, which is a good spot there, where it's not necessarily you're looking for other people that have complementary skill sets to you. This is a good place to
Yes.
go find those people that have
Yeah.
they're doing professional services, and so you have a distinction where you're not going to be you're going to be posting about and promoting yourself in that context a lot more than if
That's
you
right.
were going on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. Like that's just a more
Yeah.
specific.
So we should also address the fact that LinkedIn is a lot about B2B and not
Yeah,
so much B2C, although
yeah,
it does exist. And Facebook is a mixture of all. So there's that aspect. So make sure that your profile is well optimized, you're organized for search. And the last section on that topic is about, I want to touch on, is about having multiple profiles. And sometimes people have a side hustle. If you need to, keep your side hustle a secret, although I'm not sure LinkedIn is still the best place to keep secrets. Um, then maybe you might want a second profile, but I don't recommend having two profiles. It's too hard to manage. You want your LinkedIn profile to really be about you. And
yeah,
and then people have the tendency to want to remove some of the stuff that is part of them. So they may have some hobbies or some be part of some volunteer efforts. All of those things should be listed because how we connect with people, if you think about it, we look for their skills, we look for what they can offer us depending on what we're looking for. And then so we might find 3 or 4 people that have all of those skills and they're perfectly suitable to help you with what you need. So the next thing you're going to check is availability, but you're also going to look at affinity. So
hmm
what kinds of things do you have in common with that person? Are you going to want to work with them? Do they have is there some kind of personal note that you can lead with? It can be charity, it can be volunteering, it can be a past uh, career, it can be all sorts of things. They'll People will tend to try and connect with you on those topics. It can be a hobby, so make sure you're filling out those aspects too, and try not to limit yourself to just the one thing because that just seems pretty boring. We're
yeah.
multifaceted.
Well, and also when you're trying to like build connections and referral, you don't start with "Hello, we are going to go into business together." You try and build some sort of
That's
amicable,
right.
like you have some rapport with someone, and it's not
Yes,
necessarily going to be through the business. It's not usually going to be the best way to do it. So you need to have some sort
that's
of,
right.
and like we all contain multitudes, right? Like we have other things about us that aren't just about the business, and so it's a good spot to not like make it, oh, I'm the wacky, I don't know, insurance person, like it's like you can have something about you that isn't necessarily just the work. And so
That's
uh,
right.
and because I know when we were talking about this that you definitely, to kind of build on that, is that you don't want to be just pitching, right? Because that gets
That's
pretty
right.
tiring, it gets pretty exhausting for people,
That's
and
right.
no one wants to hear that, but they do want to have some way that they can build a connection with you, and that you're not there
Yeah.
just to immediately go like, "Hi, I bet you'd like to buy my
Yeah.
service or product."
Yeah, and that's a great segue into the inbox, which is where
Yeah,
most of that happens. So, the inbox is I feel very strongly about etiquette within the inbox. Um,
yeah,
because LinkedIn is so specifically you, it's your profile, your CV, the whole 9 yards, and not your business page. I'm going to talk about the, the profile and the cold calls. So, one thing, if you're into any kind of in person networking, one of the best ways to make sales and build affinity and build deep connections with a small number of people that can actually get you further rather than hunting for each individual client. So usually what I like to do is I go in with the idea that I'm going to find really good referral partners, right? So
Hmm.
you're going to go in, you're going to make sure that they've got the skill set. You might see that, oh, we have some affinity in this area. This is one of my people. You recognize your people, whatever that looks like. Then you want to contact them. You want to think about it in terms of in-person networking. You wouldn't go up to somebody at a networking event and say, "Hey, my name is Rena, and I build websites, and here are some of my examples, and this is my rate, and let me know if you want to talk further." You wouldn't do that. You actually just wouldn't do that. Even if you were into making sales hardcore, you would not do that. You would generally go up and you'd introduce yourself, and you might you know have a little chit chat first and ask the other person maybe what they do instead of saying what you do. And you might then ask them, how's business going? Do you have any struggles? Or you might decide, um, oh, hey, I'd love to have a coffee chat and get to know your business. I'm looking for someone uh, you know, to help with this aspect of my business, and I'd love to hear more about what you do and what your approach is like, and how I can, and we can go from there, rather than a sales call, like booking the sales calls. And I think salespeople really get into your inbox, and maybe it's a numbers game, and they get enough results that that kind of approach works for them, and they're fine with that. But I actually, if somebody connects with me, sends me that immediate message, I actually unconnect with them. I disconnect with them. I guess that's the right word. I disconnect with them because those aren't my people. My people are looking for deep connections, not making the immediate sale. And so that's one thing. I would avoid making that try and making that sale, because you need to figure out what someone's problems are and how you're going to solve them. You're not going to go in and assume that from the get-go, because you could have it completely wrong. For example, I had one guy he sent me 3 messages about how he helps authors, and I'm like, dude, did you read my profile at all? I'm not an author at all. Like, I have no interest in being an author. And and it was like he just didn't pay attention. And so when I see someone like that who's not paying attention, I just figure they're using a service, they're using a software that's pulling information and putting my name on a list, and they're not really paying attention. And if they're not that interested in reading my profile and double checking to make sure that I'm really their target market, then that's not a connection that I'm interested in. And
Yeah.
then yeah,
Oh, I was just
go ahead.
gonna say off of that was that when you, and it also it's not someone that you want to work with if they're not going to be paying
No,
attention to you off the get go
no,
about like what you even offer as a service. Then they're not
yeah,
going to be a person that you want to work with, either referral or anything, because obviously they're not paying
yeah.
attention. So like that's
They're not
already a
careful.
massive red flag. They're not
Yes,
paying attention to.
exactly,
So it's like it's already
exactly.
like you're already omitting yourself by like not doing the
That's right.
basic work of knowing anything about the person. And then the other
That's
part
right.
that reminds me of is like in sales, there's a great anecdote of like they gave this sales guy, I can't remember where it was, but anyway, they gave him like a list of 100 leads, and he'd spent all his research and within a week just sifting out all the people. It's like, well, these people wouldn't be good for me. And he got the 10 sales that he was going to get out of that list. And he got those because they were the right people by actually doing the research and like learning about these
Yes,
people and actually knowing, so that you're not just
yes.
like blasting out. You're actually like doing a bit of research. And then it's like, hey, I
Hmm.
noticed that, you were doing some, I don't know, like some SEO, but these things kind of look broken. It's kind of weird. You want to have a conversation about it, something like
Yeah,
that, where you're
yeah,
doing some research, you're showing that you actually care about the person, and that you're not just some random person
yeah.
just blasting out a
Oh,
million
yeah.
people.
Yeah, because when you blast a million people, in that way, actually, that's really funny, because it actually reminded me, just as we're speaking now, of those telemarketers that call
Yeah.
and they tell you that your site has a problem. And I get those calls all the time because I run my client domains through my contact information so that I can vet what's going on for my clients and avoid having them signing up for all sorts of things that they're not supposed to be doing. And
Yeah.
what they do actually is they actually haven't looked at your site at all. And I know this because one time I had a panic because I had a site behind a splash page and it's not supposed to be indexing. I set it to not index. And all of a sudden my client gets this call and she's like panicked because why is the site showing this person has seen all these mistakes on my website? And then I realized I talked to a bunch of other industry people, and it happened to me after that, where there's no site at all,
Yeah.
and they're still phoning you and telling you that there are problems on your site and that they need to be fixed. So
Yeah.
this kind of reminds me of that. It's like throwing some paint at the wall and hoping something works. And that's not really a good tactic. Knowing your ideal client, figuring out where those people are, and doing that extra little step just shows that you're a high value service provider. And
Yeah.
that's really what I'm looking for when I'm partnering with people. So yes, and there are some steps that you can do, and there are systems that are in place that don't work. But it would just take a little bit of extra effort to take those systems and work them. So when a company offers you um, a list of people on LinkedIn who are looking for your services, it's totally fine to take that list. Then you go through the list and make sure the people are correct, or give them the criteria of what your ideal clients look like and which ones are definitely not your ideal clients, and have them reduce that list because um, a lot of salespeople go for a numbers game. They think if you're going to do 5,000, hit 5,000 people, you might have 250 return on that. It's better to have a higher conversion rate by narrowing down your list to ideal people and know who you're talking to first, and figuring out what that way in is. And so what the next step is that these companies will offer to create um, three different um, uh, inbox messages that
Mm.
they send to everyone. It's a series of three, and so they'll start with the first one. So you want to go through that message, and you want to make sure that that's actually a good message for your target market. Sometimes it just sounds too salesy. Sometimes it sounds too familiar. That's the other. I've seen that before too, which is oddly, it's very weird. It's like that's what people do on Facebook. Um, and you want to find that Goldilocks message that will get you to the next step. And I really love jumping on calls with people on LinkedIn. I think that's the best way, but that might not be the way for you and your business. So you want to figure out what that first mode of conversation is. And I also recommend don't have a virtual assistant or an assistant of any kind, a marketer of any kind, respond to messages. That's something that they should be handing off to you to do, because this was my experience receiving one of these messages. I got one of these messages. It sounded like I knew this. I already knew this person fairly well. Met her in person a number of times. Had conversations on Zoom, lengthy conversations on Zoom. Received a message like this, and then I responded, and I included some information in the response that only the person that I thought was sending me the message would understand or would know what I'm referring to. And I got a heart emoji sent back to me, which was totally out of characteristic for this person. Maybe not with other people, but for the relationship that we have. A heart emoji was just weird. It didn't answer my question. It was an odd response. And it's not really, I always think of LinkedIn as being a much more professional space than that. And so, really, only my good friends should be giving me heart emojis on LinkedIn, and or my teammates. Um, and and my good friends and I aren't really, and my teammates and I aren't really using LinkedIn as a mode of communication anyways. So the heart
Yeah.
emojis don't work out. And then when I said, I think I can't remember how I responded to the heart emoji. And then the person's whose account it was jumped on and let me know that it was a virtual assistant. So if you find yourself having to jump on and say, "Oh, that wasn't me, that was my virtual assistant," then you know your messaging is incorrect. Your messaging is not right. It
Yeah.
needs to be reviewed, and the process needs to be reviewed. You can't just send your virtual assistant in there posing as you. Like, that's a no-no. I don't think that's a good idea. You can have them send the first message. That works. um, and the other thing that I found that I really loved is I had a beef with the I forgot which one, Bank of Montreal or Royal Bank, Bank of Montreal, TD, I don't know, one of the banks.
Yeah.
One of the banks I had a beef with, there was a big user experience issue in my experience with going through customer service. Oh yeah, it was like a 24-hour wait time on the hold. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
exaggerate, not 24 hours, but it was 6 hours.
Lengthy.
It did
Yeah.
say 6 hours. Yeah, and there was no callback, and I was very, very distraught. And there was no other way for me to do what I needed to do other than do it by phone. It was during COVID when everything was shut down. It was very, and I'm sure that's why there was long phone lines, but none of the other banks seem to have had that issue. I don't know. Anyways, regardless, I went on LinkedIn. I found the CEO of whatever customer support, or the big guy. I found the highest guy I could find listed. And interestingly enough, um, instead of having a Google business profile page on the right hand side when I searched in Google, his LinkedIn profile came up on the right
Hmm.
hand side. So I just went straight there and I messaged him and gave him my thing. And the next thing I know, it was actually not a very long turnaround time. His personal assistant was in there answering me. This worked very well. When I contacted and I got, "Hey, this is my name is, and I am this person's personal assistant, and I'd like to hear more about what's happened here. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for letting us know. How would you like to be contacted?" Right?
Yeah.
And that worked brilliantly. So you can have people in your inbox, best not to have them impersonate you. Best to have them say, "Hey, it's so and so's executive assistant, personal assistant, virtual assistant." It doesn't really matter. Um, I'd love to get some more details so that I can get this information to, the right department. That's perfect. That worked very well. And I think that could also work in the sales funnel aspect part of it too. Like, it
Yeah.
could be, "Hey, I'm Rena's a virtual assistant. Sounds like a Zoom call would be great. Does that work for you? And let me help you set that up. Let's schedule something." That would be great. That would be a great, you know,
Use case
way
for
to
like that.
offload. Yeah, yeah,
And
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 offload
it's
that time. Yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say it's definitely one where again honesty is going to be super important and being
Yes.
forthright. You like
Yes.
people understand you have teams and like you can't be
That's right.
everywhere at once, and so people get it if like you happen to have your assistant helping you out
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. I don't think people are going to be upset with that. I think, like you said, they're going to be more people are going to be more upset if you try and trick them because
Yes. They
people
feel
are
duped.
yeah, and people
They don't
don't
like to feel
like that.
duped.
Yeah, they're like they just and if people are and especially if you're just honest and upfront of just like, hey, I'm the assistant, I'm just helping out with their messages on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They I think that like you said, a Zoom call would be great, and they help you schedule it. Like that's a perfectly good use case that I would
Yes.
feel like that would make sense for that context of like the
Yes.
person's like wanting that help, and people are you know the again like I when we were kind of planning this out, I figured that it was going to be the two major takeaways of anything on the internet. It's like be upfront and be helpful. It's kind of like always
Yes.
it's always
Yes.
the guiding principles no matter like which platform. Obviously the like how you do it is going to be different, but like being people you know people these days are you know a little worn down from like social media, and so they don't
Yeah.
like don't and a little cynical about it, so don't like you're not going to be able to
Yeah.
pull a fast one on anyone, and it's
No.
better to just be honest and upfront with everyone when they're,
Yeah.
when they're acting like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can use the efficiency making tools and all of that, just really tailor them. So I've looked at a number of LinkedIn inbox funnels, and none of them worked for me exactly out of the box. And why should they?
Yeah.
They're like they're pret-a-porter. They are the dresses that are supposed to, there's five sizes and they fit everyone.
Yeah.
That's what this is. So what we want to do is customize them slightly. So just don't use anything that's out of the box if you're paying for a system. LinkedIn system, don't use it out of the box. Make your
Yeah.
adjustments as needed, and you'll still get the efficiencies. You'll still get the system that works, and you're going to have much better results. Your conversion rate, I bet, is going to be much better than using it out of the box.
Yeah, I think, and that's true. I mean, of like any system, right? It wouldn't. It's got to be tailored to you at the end of the day, like your messaging, who you're going
Your
after, the
brand.
problem.
This is branding, folks. This
Hmm.
is branding. So people think branding is buying a logo and getting their website organized, even. But branding is all about customer service, all those touch points,
Yeah.
and how you engage on LinkedIn is another form of branding. It
Yeah.
speaks for you when you're not there.
Yeah, exactly. And I would also say, because I didn't have this in the notes, but I realized that we probably should have. One of the big reasons that you do want to be doing this stuff for LinkedIn is because LinkedIn isn't monetized the same way as other platforms. Like the way they
That's
make
right.
money is through the sales navigator. So like your content and how to get in front of people is doesn't have to be monetized because they just
Yeah.
need people on the platform. So because they've
Yeah.
separated out that part, it actually makes it easier for you to get on there, do posts consistently talking about your topic,
Yes.
and then that helps you get out there because
Yeah.
LinkedIn's goal is to just have people on the platform engaging so that the recruiters can come in and find those people. Um,
Yeah,
it,
and the algorithm is way better than any of the other platforms, except for TikTok. Well, we all know how I feel about
yeah,
TikTok,
well, and I mean, it
but
is.
for networking, it's just a different purpose completely. This is really a great networking space.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to like, yeah, hammer on the idea that it's not like Facebook where they have to monetize
Yeah,
every interaction slowly over
everything.
time
Yeah,
because that's how they make money. Whereas LinkedIn makes
yeah,
money through a different
for sure.
means, which means they can make the
Yeah,
content free and just push that out. And it means that
yeah,
you're getting a lot out of the you can get a lot out of the platform for doing, thought leadership or whatever, or that kind of stuff, building your brand. And it not doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna have to pay like right out of the box in order to get in front of people.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's excellent. So just to recap those main things: be authentic. Make sure that if you're working with somebody else in your inbox, that you're you're handling the interactions that might be your friends or people that know you, because that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Customize everything, um, optimize everything, optimize your profile, don't leave anything out, and think of it as how you would behave at a live networking group where you're going to be meeting somebody and getting to know them before you try and make that sale.
Yeah, and also how someone would find you if they go and search on LinkedIn. Like, what
Yeah,
would be a thing that would trigger someone finding you that is someone from your audience? Like, what keywords would they be typing
yeah,
in? What type of things would they be looking for? And
yeah.
you're so you want to optimize for that. Like, so that's
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
one to think about.
So maybe what I'll do is I'll attach my LinkedIn checklist to this for everyone for the optimizing part. That'll give everyone something to go by and something to think about in how they organize their profile.
Yeah,
Right on. So we're just coming up to the last minute, and what is happening next week, Phelan?
that is a great question. I totally had this open the whole time. It is
Sorry.
you and Pip are going to be talking about sales strategies, how to bring
Oh,
in new
terrific.
business.
Oh, terrific. Right on. All right, so we are streaming live from the Facebook Geeks um, Cyberpunk Geek Cyberpunk Geek Marketing Mixer
Marketing mixer. Yes.
in Facebook. So if you're watching this anywhere else, that's where you will find us. And we do stream to other channels too. You can join us there or anywhere. And we're here on Thursdays at 11 for all sorts of things to do about marketing. Thanks for joining
Exactly.
us.
Okay. Bye for now.
See you next week.